everyone. Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight, Black Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman. On the show tonight,
I'm talking about the soul of Chicago.
Looking back at Mayor Brandon Johnson's first year in office and the challenges ahead.
I'm paying the cost of this. I've been locked up 25 years and 6 months.
After 25 years in prison, one man says he's still fighting to prove his innocence. And 3 Chicago journalists talk about their Pulitzer Prize winning stories. And now to some of today's top stories. Chicago Public Schools and the Chicago Teachers Union are teaming up. Hundreds of teachers traveled to Springfield today to persuade state lawmakers for more money. They say the state owes CPS at least $1 billion more a year.
They don't deserve another school year with limited resources, especially our bilingual students, our brown students, our black students. We all need quality education.
It's very frustrating.
Now, Republican lawmakers, meanwhile, say it's inappropriate for CTU members to get a paid day off for what they called, quote, shameless money grubbing. They say CPS already receives a disproportionate share of state funding. Teens and young adults across Chicago are still struggling to find consistent work. That's according to a new report from the University of Illinois, Chicago. The report finds youth joblessness rates in Chicago outpace the rest of Illinois and the country as a whole. For Black Chicagoans ages 20 to 24, the jobless rate is around 30% compared to 15% for Latino residents and 8% for white Chicagoans. This Friday marks 70 years since the U.S. Supreme Court's historic Brown versus the Board of Education decision striking down segregation in schools. At the time, no one outside the courthouse heard the case, but a former Northwestern professor partnered with the university to use voice cloning technology to create a sense of just how attorney Thurgood Marshall sounded when making his case.
The only thing that can be is an inherent determination that the people who were formerly in slavery, regardless of anything else, shall be kept as near that stage as is possible. And now is the time, we submit, that this court should make it clear that is not what our Constitution stands for.
Thurgood Marshall, of course, would go on to become a Supreme Court justice. The project is called Brown Revisited by Oye, a free law project that archives multimedia from the Supreme Court. The technology melds audio samples of the principals in this case with actors reading the historical transcripts to make it sound as if they're speaking anew. Up next, an in-depth look at Mayor Johnson's first year in office.
Chicago Tonight, Black Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
One year ago today, Brandon Johnson became the 57th mayor of Chicago. He used his inaugural address to paint a vibrantly optimistic picture of the city's future, claiming a mandate to make the city a more equitable place to live.
Together, we can build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. We just have to look deep into the soul of Chicago. Can I get a witness? I'm talking about the soul of Chicago. Whether you live in Jefferson Park or Morgan Park or McKinley Park or Gage Park or in Humboldt Park, I'm talking about a revival in the city of Chicago where the soul of Chicago comes alive.
Reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with an analysis of Johnson's first year in office. Heather, you wrote that Johnson faced some enormous obstacles during his first year in office that complicated his efforts to create that Chicago for all that he talked a lot about. Where did that pressure come from?
Well, from the left. He was elected by a progressive political movement who wanted him to use his power immediately to address the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, an increase in homelessness, a surge in crime, and increasing inequity across the South and the West Side. But from across the political spectrum, he also faced entrenched conservative and moderate power brokers who found themselves locked out of City Hall and who were angry about what that could mean for their access to power and what it would mean for the city. At the same time, he faced an escalating crisis with the arrival of tens of thousands of migrants from the southern border, many on buses paid for by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. and he had to get his hands around that almost immediately.
Of course, and during his inaugural address, Johnson vowed to care for the migrants, proclaiming that there was room for everyone in Chicago. Did he fulfill that promise?
Well, if you ask him, he says he brought order and structure to a chaotic crisis. But it's clear he struggled for months to clear the police stations and airports of thousands of people who had nowhere else to go. And once he was able to open up many new shelters, the conditions in those shelters were grim. And of course, a 5-year-old boy caught a virus and died living there. At the same time, he faced real questions about what it meant to be caring for so many new arrivals when so many Chicagoans were struggling to just keep their heads above water.
Yes, remember, a very fraught situation. Heather, your analysis also pinpointed several unforced errors committed by the mayor, including his decision to announce plans to limit migrants to no more than 60 days in Chicago shelters at what was expected to be a news conference celebrating the passage of his first budget. Let's listen to what Johnson said.
I repeat, a promise to never sacrifice the needs of Chicagoans in support of those who wish to become Chicagoans. Chicago, I heard you and I hear you.
Heather, why did that make the mayor's task harder?
Well, it cost him support by both with a public and private rebuke from his progressive allies, who said they were disappointed to see him cast sort of the struggle to care for the migrants as a zero-sum game, that somebody was going to win and someone was going to lose. At the same time, it was his most explicit acknowledgement that Black Chicagoans were furious with the city's full force of government reports to care for the newest arrivals in Chicago when they had lived in communities rife with disinvestment for decades. Johnson has yet to truly figure out how to navigate those two competing pressures.
And of course, no issue dominated the 2023 mayoral race like public safety and the president of the police union warning that blood would run in the streets if Johnson was elected. What happened? Well,
not blood in the streets, although crime and violence, of course, remain persistently high, especially on the south and the west sides. But in fact, homicides dropped 15% in Johnson's first year in office. By comparison, homicides dropped 6% during Lori Lightfoot's first year as mayor, and murders rose 21% the first year Rahm Emanuel was in office. Now, Johnson says there's much more to do, and he intends to use the $1.25 billion the city council authorized him to borrow over the next 5 years to start making those investments in the root causes of violence and crime that he says will pay real dividends.
Before we let you go, Johnson told you that he's even more optimistic about the city's future a year after taking office. How long or how will he approach the big challenges that are looming on the horizon?
Well, of course, no bigger challenge looms than the Democratic National Convention. I will also be watching to see if he adjusts his style as mayor. He doesn't like groundbreakings, he told me. He likes ribbon cuttings, but sometimes if you don't celebrate the groundbreaking, you don't get to the ribbon cutting, and that's where I've heard some frustration from his supporters.
Okay, that's interesting to see how that'll play out in the next year. Heather Sharon, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brandis.
And you can read Heather's full story on our website. It's all at WTTW.com/news. And we did invite Mayor Johnson to join us on tonight's program, but he declined. He's welcome to join us, though. And we're back with more right after this. Of the nearly 30,000 men and women serving sentences in Illinois prisons, there are some who proclaim their innocence. In the last 20 years, the state has released a spate of mostly men who were wrongfully convicted, some after tortured confessions. In fact, the state faced so many claims of torture, it created the Torture Relief and Inquiry Commission, or TURC, in 2009. But for one man in Stateville Prison, a former Marine, the law hasn't provided relief, but only raised questions. Like, who is the law for? When I first met Daryl Fair, he was jogging on the yard at Stateville Correctional, while I was there on another story. We kept in touch, and he shared the story of how he came to prison more than 25 years ago.
25 years, 4 months, and 9 days, to be exact.
Fair and his attorneys say he was wrongfully convicted of a murder that happened in Chicago in 1998. A man was shot to death outside a club.
It's complicated by the fact that Mr. Fair was undeniably present at the time that the crime was committed.
They say while he was at the club, he had nothing to do with the crime. But Fair was convicted. And he believes it's because of his confession, which he says was coerced at the Chicago Police Department's Area 2 station at 111th and Ellis.
And then this explosion happened on my lower left knee, right below the kneecap, and he had kicked me. After his first initial kick, he kicked maybe 7 to 8 more times, but I was able to deflect some of the other blows with my free hand. And all the time, he has his right hand resting on his service revolver, and he's trying to bait me in, go for it, make a move, just give me a effing reason.
Fair and his attorneys at the Exoneration Project, which provides free legal services to the wrongfully convicted, say over the course of 30 hours, he was threatened, denied food, asthma medication, and his right to counsel. By the time Fair agreed to the confession, he says he was desperate.
I was exhausted. They telling me I was going to go to jail forever. Hey, we just need you to say this and you can go home. It was just terrifying, experience. So, it all was a blur. And I think, okay, well, listen, just by me saying something, I know I didn't do anything. Okay, so I'll say it, if I can get something to eat. And if it would appease, these officers, let me just go ahead and say it.
His current attorneys, Deb Lovey and Russell Ainsworth, say Fair never signed the confession that was used in court. What's more, they say there's been no denial in court of the torture Fair suffered, and none of the witnesses ever identified him as the shooter. Lovey even argued the case before the Illinois Supreme Court last summer.
By the preponderance of the evidence.
In a February ruling, justices made 2 decisions. The first, yes, in fact, the courts must consider the totality of circumstances in a torture case.
That's why this opinion is very important. It's recognizing that torture comes in many forms, not just the classic knife to the throat or the threat to kill your mother. It also comes in the form of, again, sleep deprivation, of depriving someone of medicine, of not allowing them to speak to their attorney, the sort of events that go on and build upon each other that may actually coerce someone's will and then force them to sign a confession falsely.
But the court also upheld a lower court ruling that Fair was, quote, a wholly incredible witness. Quote, we note the circuit court specifically found petitioner was not credible in testifying about the alleged attack itself.
They agreed with the lower court because of witness credibility. And this is a very fraught situation because they're being asked to determine credibility of witnesses 25 years, previously. And none of the cops that were involved testified. One of them has been involved in other acts of torture.
Instead, judges found the assistant state's attorney who took Fair's unsigned confession more credible than Fair himself. We reached out to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, who so far have shared no comment.
On the other hand, the assistant state's attorney who was there did testify after the fact, even though he wasn't there during this torture, and they, at least the majority of the court, agreed with the assistant state's attorney and found that Mr. Fair, in comparison, wasn't credible because his story had changed over the years.
And it's this part of the ruling that his attorneys disagree with.
The fact of the matter is he's always made the same allegations. He's been consistent about the allegations. And if he can't remember, at which point this happened or that happened, I think that is attributable to how much time has gone by and also the severe trauma that he endured.
In fact, in 2013, the state's own torture commission found that Fair had a credible claim of torture.
The state did not present anybody to rebut the claims of torture that occurred during the 30 hours of interrogation. And so, based on the unrebutted testimony from Mr. Fair, he was entitled to relief under the Act. I mean, a statute that was supposed to be used to allow people who are abused to get relief is being used against Mr. Fair, where he can't get his day in court.
The Supreme Court's decision means Fair will not receive a new trial and a chance to be exonerated and released.
It was a gut punch, felt deflated, hopeless, alone.
While maintaining his innocence, Fair has graduated from Northeastern Illinois University and is working toward his master's at North Park University, all while behind bars. He's also become quite an artist, his work even gracing the cover of Poetry magazine. It's helped him maintain hope despite his many legal setbacks.
I don't want to let the past define me, but I'm trying to shape the future to the best of my ability. I'm trying to embrace life for what time I have left here on this earth, embrace humanity, and I'm just trying to live, you know, and I'm looking forward and not behind.
Again, we reached out to the Cook County State's Attorney and Illinois Attorney General's offices. So far, they've shared no comment. Lovie and Ainsworth are hopeful that Kim Foxx's Conviction Review Unit will examine the case. If not, a separate option they're considering is filing a successive post-conviction petition, which can be more challenging as it requires the court's permission to be filed. The Illinois Torture Inquiry and Relief Commission says as of March 1st, there were still 414 remaining torture claims to be investigated. The stories of dozens of missing black women in Chicago, along with a 1997 hate crime on the city's south side, have earned 3 Chicago journalists the coveted Pulitzer Prize. And both stories came from the same newsroom, the Invisible Institute. Here's a look at one of them, the series Missing in Chicago, which won the Pulitzer for local reporting in partnership with City Bureau.
Police department failed me. Chicago Police Department failed me. It's not just hurting the mother and the father, it's hurting the sister, the brother, the nieces. It's hurting the whole entire family, you know. It destroys you because, you know, everybody is wondering what's going on and they don't get answers. So for what happened to Shantae, it broke my family.
Another Chicago winner was the podcast series You Didn't See Nothing, which won the Pulitzer for audio reporting.
Black life is a series of negotiations that force us to evaluate what our life is worth. Some days I'm still mad as hell at these black folks who sided with Lil Frankie and his father. And other days I'm like, they victims too. Don't get me wrong. They made choices. They chose to rock with powerful white men over an innocent little black boy. But why do we live in a society where black folks got to make these calculations?
And journalists Sarah Conway, Trina Reynolds-Tyler, and Johannes LaCour all join us now. Welcome back, team. Congrats to all of you. I know it's been an exciting and busy time.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Johannes, let's start with you. Please remind us what You Didn't See Nothing is about.
You Didn't See Nothing is about a hate crime took place in '97. A little boy named Leonard Clark and his friend were living in Stateway Gardens, and they wound up in Bridgeport just looking for air for their tire because the air actually costs less in Bridgeport than it did in the projects. And they were attacked. Leonard Clark was beaten within inches of his life. And I investigated that story in '97. So the podcast is me taking a look back at that story through the lens of my investigation as it took place then.
Okay, and we're looking back at photos and images of Leonard Clark at the time, and you were a journalist at the time, and of course, like you said, you revisited it later on. What has happened since this story has gotten more nationwide attention recently?
Well, I mean, the story itself has gotten just a lot of accolades, and I guess, you know, a lot of people have been really moved by all that they didn't know. A lot of folks in Chicago, like, yeah, I remember that, but I didn't know that the cover-up was that deep. I didn't know that these folks sided with those folks. So there's been a lot of, just added a lot of context, a lot of detail to what was kind of a forgotten story.
Was the process, the storytelling, was it healing for you at all? Because obviously a lot of your own story is threaded through the narrative as well.
Yeah, it was therapeutic. I joke with some of my producers, Bill Healy in particular, because we spent a lot of time in the booth, and Sarah Geis, all of them, Irissa Apataku. First of all, let me shout them out. Right. Bill Healy, Sarah Geis, Irissa Apataku, Dana Brozos Kelleher, Allison Flowers, Jamie Calvin, couldn't have did it without them, like amazing team, right? And so it was therapeutic because I knew the story, but we found more and more, right? From all of our researching, and they prodded me and pushed me and made me think about questions in different ways, where because it was part memoir, I had to kind of examine myself too. And so it was definitely therapeutic, yeah.
Sarah and Trina, let's talk about missing in Chicago. Give us an overview. Sarah, let's start with you, please.
Well, Missing in Chicago is an investigation that is based off of connecting with impacted families. We examined over 1 million public records, from police records to county to state, to see the Chicago Department's missing persons pipeline and specifically how it impacts Black families. We know that Black people in Chicago make up about 2/3 of missing persons cases and have for decades. And in particular, Black women and girls make up a disproportionate impact as well. When we look at Black girls between the ages of 10 to 20, they make up 2% of Chicago's population, but about 30% of all missing persons cases. So in our story, we really wanted to understand how neglect and the mishandling of missing persons cases impacts families in a systemic manner.
Trina, what surprised you the most once you started your investigation?
I think there are a lot of things that came up that were really connected, the impact of neglect, on like homicides. The most shocking thing was the premature closure of the 2 cases, Shavonna Prather, Desiree Robinson, 2 Black teenage girls whose cases were closed before they were actually found. At the time of Desiree Robinson's case closure, she was being sex trafficked. We spoke with her family. They said, Desiree never came home. That's actually not true. 4 days after her case was closed, she was found murdered. And so it calls to question, was Chicago police looking for her in the first place, and could they have saved her life?
There's also been some tangible results since your reporting first came out. Sarah, tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So a resolution was introduced in late April to call for a mayor's task force on missing women in Chicago. It parallels a state task force that's going on right now. The state for the past couple of years has been looking at this issue. They're planning to do a report to Pritzker at the end of 2024. So we saw that. We believe that in June it's going to go to the Public Safety Committee for debate. We also know that the Chicago Inspector General, they laid out their priorities for 2024. They put an A1 priority as investigating the Chicago Police Department's missing persons pipeline. And we've also seen the tangible impact of families, which is really important. When you're a journalist and you're talking to people who've been really impacted by something, sometimes you go in and you see people have been in a lot of pain. They're not totally sure if they want to trust media, and seeing the families really have more and more comfort, like stepping into their own power, speaking for themselves. You played
using their voices to advocate for
Exactly.
their loved one and for their families. And sorry not to jump in, but I want to talk about sort of bigger picture. I mean, all of you were telling stories about Black people and the Black experience in Chicago. What do you think it says, Johans, that stories like this are getting the attention of the Pulitzer Prize attention?
I think it says we're doing a good job, because these stories, there have been people telling these stories for a long time, but now you got outfits like the Invisible Institute, you got outfits like the City Bureau who are allowing folks who really live in these stories to tell these stories authentically and in their own voices, right? These are just American stories. You talking about, when I think about y'all's story and the police looking the other way, closing cases before people are found, it makes me think about the police, looking the other way when, their buddies and their buddies' children are accused of beating Black kids to death. And so, and people were telling the stories then, but it says that we got more access to people's ears now. That's what I get from it.
Trina, similar question to you. What does it mean that, Black stories from Chicago are getting this kind of attention now?
I mean, it's incredibly important, right? We see young Black people in the media globally being described as thugs. And then now today, right, we're seeing your reporting on even the young people experiencing joblessness, right? We're talking about, DCFS has been huge in the media, right? And when we look at missing in Chicago, a lot of the people who are reported missing are Black children. And so it really gives us an opportunity to come back to the root, right? To understand what's happening before someone dies by homicide. Homicides are down, right? But what else is happening? How are records being collected? And how do we use information, public information, to have conversations with impacted people about their lived experience, not just some reality that people create, some perspective people create in their minds.
Sarah, just a couple of seconds left, but how do you think this recognition will help to kind of contribute to the work that is being done by nonprofit, smaller newsrooms like yours, like both of yours?
It's, I think, so important because it's about a paradigm shift. I think that's what's really powerful about the podcast and the investigation, is we are looking at issues, as Johannes had said, have been covered for a long time, but we're looking at them at the root. We're seeing people as complex, people that control their own stories, and that's really important.
And I can't wait to see what the three of you do next. Congrats again, and thanks for joining us, Sarah Conway, Trina Reynolds-Tyler, and Johannes LaCour.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that is our show for tonight. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10 for Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Black Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm, and proud sponsor of programming that offers advice and strategies to enhance the physical and mental well-being of fellow legal practitioners in Illinois.